Hello everyone and welcome to this audio podcast. In this series, this is an audio podcast aligned to the role of endogenous opioids in ischaemic preconditioning or IPC in humans. This is part of an audio podcast aligned to the LabZtorm effect v.3. This is audio podcast in line to the summary, where there'll be a summary of ischaemic preconditioning and remote ischaemic preconditioning, and there'll be a sort of a an overview in context of the aims, the sort of aims of in around research, retrospective research that had taken place, and also sort of the hypotheses, if you like, in around the research as well. This is only a podcast aligned to a storm-robustic soliloquy, and also again a part of a storm-robustic soliloquy, and also a part of a storm-robustics production. So, in around sort of the summary of ischaemic preconditioning and remote ischaemic preconditioning. So, ischaemic reperfusion injury or IR injury can be examined by the sort of measurement or the measurement or the implementation of flow-mediated dilatation (FMD), wherein there's a sort of a reflecting in context of endothelial function in upper limb conduit vessels, such as for example the brachial artery. And sustained ischaemia causes attenuation of endothelial response and a lower value of flow mediated dilatation, which regards which reflects the basis of ischaemic reperfusion injury. Limb ischaemia is less invasive, and can be achieved quite safely. Imaging an artery with ultrasound also allows the vessel diameter to be determined before and after a reactive hyperemia, and percentage change to be also measured or determined, or established sort of effectively. The induction of brief periods of alternating ischemia and also sort of reperfusion cycles to lower limb in aligned to remote, which has been sort of determined as aligned to remote ischemic preconditioning or RIPC, or to the upper limb aligned to ischemic preconditioning or IPC before index upper limb ischemia serves or has been documented to serve as a basis and a sort of a modality to perform mechanistic investigations of protection against ischemic reperfusion injury in humans. Now, aligned to this as well, sort of the aims, and objectives in around the research that had taken place, from a sort of joined up sort of basis, where for example University College London and King's College London, both UCL and KCL, in around 2000, between 2008 and 2009, had this investigational basis. In around an investigational basis, had looked to establish, for example, whether IPC, ischemic preconditioning affords protection or cardioprotection or CP against the effects of endothelial and ischaemic-reperfusion or IR injury in the forearm of healthy human volunteers. And at the same time, the basis was to determine whether the opioid receptor antagonist, for example, naloxone blocks the protective effects of ischemic preconditioning, or IPC, utilizing an established human forearm ischemic-reperfusion injury model, or IR injury model. And also at the same time to establish the researchers and investigatory collaboration look to establish and identify whether endogenous opioids, for example Beta-Endorphin, has a basis in protection against ischemic-reperfusion injury. And in light of this, the research sort of retrospectively looked to identify sort of establish sort of quantifying local levels of endogenous beta-endorphin during sort of remote ischemic preconditioning or RIPC stimulus, utilizing a laboratory method of enzyme-linked immunoabsorbent assay, or ELISA. The hypothesis in around this research, that had taken place in around the role of endogenous opioids in ischemic preconditioning, or IPC, in humans, was to determine where the general accord regarding to beta-endorphin, for example, is that it does not have a role in mediated it does not have a role or a mediatory effect in cardioprotection, or CP. The hypothesis was that a remote ischemic preconditioning stimulus, or RIP stimulus, in the leg or lower limb leads to a rise in local plasma levels of beta endogenous, and to arise in the local levels of endogenous beta-endorphin, and so that draws this audio podcast series to a close, and the whole series in around this audio podcast series is online, and listeners can check out the descriptions, information around the descriptive to identify some context in around for resources or further resources to check out some of the works in context of the literature around this works, so that draws this to a close. There will be, and following this, there will be a particular sort of feature, if you like, as a sort of a standalone aspect in context of a feature following this audio podcast. So that draws this this audio podcast series to a close. This has been an audio podcast series aligned to the LabZtorm Effect v.3. This has been an audio podcast aligned to the summary of ischemic preconditioning and remote ischemic preconditioning, and in line to the role of endogenous opioids in ischemic preconditioning, or IPC, in humans. This has been another Storm Robotics soliloquy, and once again another Storm Robotics production. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully listeners can hopefully anticipate another audio podcast series sort of prospectively. Thank you.